Now, as long-range shooting gets more popular, we're seeing a real resurgence in first focal plane scopes. Now, scopes are either first focal plane or second focal plane, and the difference is where the reticle sits in the tube. Now, in the case of a first focal plane scope, the reticle sits towards the front of the tube in front of the magnifying lenses. In a second focal plane scope, the reticle sits toward the rear of the tube and it's behind the magnifying lenses. Now, each system has its pros and cons. So with the first focal plane scope, because the reticle sits in front of the magnifying lenses, as you change the magnification, that reticle actually appears to change size as well. So at really high magnification, that reticle becomes quite thick. So if you're shooting long range at a very small target, it can actually obscure that target a bit. As you dial the magnification down to low, that reticle becomes very fine, and it can become difficult to see in low light, especially against a dark background. On the plus side, if you're using a reticle with multiple hash marks, the good thing is that the yardage those hash marks represent never changes when you change the magnification as it would with a second focal plane scope. Now, with the second focal plane scope, because that reticle sits behind the magnifying lenses, it never changes size as you adjust magnification. But, if you're using a reticle with multiple hash marks on it, the yardage those secondary hash marks represent will change as you adjust the magnification, which isn't the case with a first focal plane scope. But that primary hash mark in the middle of the reticle, it never changes zero on either one of them as you adjust magnification. So what does all this mean to the average shooter? Well, for us, for hunting, our go-to scope is this Zeiss Conquest V4. It's a second focal plane scope, and in it, we run a simple Z-Plex reticle. So for ballistic compensation on it, it comes with an MOA turret, but we also use these ballistics custom yardage turrets, and they really simplify things. If you want to use a ballistic reticle that also has wind compensation in it, then you're probably better off going to a first focal plane scope like this Zeiss LRP S5.